Eve Echoes has been growing really fast, and apparently there's a ton of content that hasn't been released yet. I have been learning a ton about this game, so today I have 100 advanced tips for you. My first tip is that you can move this as a slider to increase your percentage chance of success. This will not only save you time, but it will save you a lot of data cores, which are usually the most expensive part of this process. If you watched my tips and tricks video for this game, you will know that you need to be in nullsec to get the best rewards, but from time to time you will want to transfer all of your stuff over to highsec to sell things, and in that case it can be kind of a dangerous area as you have to pass through more dangerous places. When that happens, a lot of people tell you that you can add things to your avoidance list and you can hit prefer the safer route, but honestly that's not going to protect you a whole lot. Rather, my recommendation is to get the Magnate, Probe, Heron, or Imicus Covert Ops. These ships start out with 1,500 cubic meters of storage capacity, which is already almost twice as much as most cruisers in the game. Then I recommend fitting it with 2 of the mechanical rigs. You can get up to 4 of these cargo hold prototype rigs for free on the 11th day of playing, which can increase your cargo capacity by 60% because you can use 2 of them. And you can buy these for about 4 million, which increases your capacity by 50%. And again, there is no penalty for having both of them. So right now I'm increasing it by 80%. Furthermore, all of these covert op ships have the ability to where you can get an extra 5% cargo hold capacity for every frigate command bonus you have. So you can get up to 25%, and that 25% works multiplicatively with your rig. So if you got a lot of rigs, let's say you have plus 100%, or you can get up to 130%, and then you also have this 25%, you're getting an additional 130% of that 25%, making it to where you can get a total of 4,300 cubic meters of carrying space, which that rivals a lot of the carriers in the game. But the reason why this is even better than a lot of those carriers is because it is incredibly fast. These things have a warp speed of 6 astronomical units, and if you fit them with 3 inertia stabilizers, which are incredibly cheap mods, you can get them for almost nothing. If you put 3 of them on your ship and you click autopilot to leave that station and move, you will notice that you are warping almost instantaneously. You can see here that as I was coming out of the Stargate warp, I immediately go into warp within milliseconds. So no one, even a fast locking frigate, is not going to be able to target you. Until indiction circles exist in the game, there is no way for anything to stop this ship, and it's almost 3 times faster than a carrier, so you can go back and forth between high sec and low sec really quickly over and over again. When you are being warped automatically, in this case I'm going to use autopilot, but if like your fleet commander is warping you and then you click on your engine, this button right here, it's going to stop you from warping. So this is particularly helpful when you are in a fleet and your fleet commander is warping you to a place you don't want to go. You just click that kill engine button and you'll stay where you're at. The reason why it is often good to orbit your enemies is because moving in a sideways direction, the faster you move in that direction, the harder it is for you to be hit. This action of moving really quickly in a sideways motion is multiplied with your signature radius. So if you have a big signature radius, then you are going to be really easy to hit. Even if you're moving fast, it's still going to be somewhat easy to hit you. But if you have a small signature radius and you're moving around in that lateral direction at a pretty quick speed, you are going to be really difficult to hit. So one thing I said in my last video that was a little bit confusing is I mentioned that a micro warp drive makes you harder to hit, which can sometimes be true in the sense that being faster makes you harder to hit. The devs were able to counteract this by making the micro warp drive increase your signature radius by like 500% so that you're pretty easy to hit even though you're going so fast. But this is highly affected by the direction that you are going. So if somebody is kiting you like this and it's really hard to hit them, if you burn away from them, then it will make it to where they have to chase you a little bit and they'll be coming at you a little bit, which makes it easier to hit them. I mentioned in my tips and tricks video that when it comes to planetary production, you're looking for materials with this perfect symbol. But what I forgot to mention is that each of these symbols are multiplied by the security zone symbol. So even if you're mining something that is rich instead of perfect, but it's in a -1 zone, that is going to produce a lot more than a perfect in a more safe zone. When you are in a fleet with someone, you can just click on the fleet command and click to follow them, which will then show you their health points. This is incredibly important for logistics. Logistics aren't that big in the game yet, but once we hit tier 7 here in a week or two, we will start having big logistic ships enter into the fight, which makes a huge difference. You can see here that the auger, which we're already working to build several of them, has some awesome optimal range for doing some repairings of other ships. It has benefits to healing. It has benefits to how fast it can repair. It has benefits to transferring capacity. These type of ships are huge game changers for both PvP and PvE because you can make a ship a lot tankier. It really makes it hard for a fleet to shut down one ship because the healers are able to keep that ship alive. When you find an area in which the base is a different level from the main area, that is the perfect place to look for scouts, inquisitors, and dead space anomalies. The maximum level of a base is whatever that zone's normal level is at, and the nice thing about having them not the same level is because you know that killing, like for example, if we killed that level 10 small anomaly right there, it would never spawn a scout or an inquisitor. You have to kill the ones that are attached to the base. So if we killed either of these smalls that are level 2 or that medium that's level 2, then we would have a chance of getting a level 2 scout or inquisitor base. So obviously you want it to be a higher level, but when it is, you're able to just grind those out, just those, not the other ones, and then they have a chance of getting the scout, inquisitor, or dead spaces. The other zones in the area do not have a chance of giving you those better anomalies. This area isn't the best example because this base has been wiped out and doing level 2 anomalies is not really worth it, but as this base levels up, which happens randomly and each base levels up, it takes a little bit longer for it to level up. Again, there's some randomization in there, so it's possible for one time the base levels up faster than it did before, but the point is it takes a while for that base to level up. You can't grind to make that base level up faster. And a lot of enemies that aren't really part of your territory, they might want to kill your bases so that you can't get all of that amazing loot you can get from scouts and inquisitors and dead spaces. So they may actually come and purposely destroy your base to reset it to level 1. So be on the lookout for people that are trying to sabotage your area. Make sure to protect those bases, get them up to level at least level 5. It seems to me that dead spaces can't spawn until you get to around level 6. When you go into the ship tree, you will see the 4 main races, but then you will also see some faction races. These ships are going to be a lot more expensive, but they are also going to be a lot better. So this Phantasm can't be built until tier level 7, but it is essentially like building a T9 ship. But then what a lot of people don't realize is just like faction weapons, you can use it at any level. Even if you're like the smallest tier level, you can use a faction weapon at any level. The same thing is true about faction ships. So as soon as people start hitting tier level 7 and can build this Phantasm, anyone of any tier level can buy that ship and essentially have the equivalent of a T9 ship, even though they might only be tech level 3. If you are fighting an anomaly, it is best to offset your guns a little bit so that you're not wasting shots on the little enemies that one shot would kill them. If you connect your account to Google Play or the App Store, then you will be able to play on those devices. But if you connect your account to Facebook or Twitter, then you will be able to play on both Android and iOS with that same account. When you are fighting in PvP, do not bring your best ships. You'll see here that we are using omens. Even though we have some really awesome T6 ships, we're still using omens because even though using less quality ships will often make it to where you end up losing more ships than they lose, the cost of those T6 ships are so much more expensive that it only takes killing one of them to account for killing like 6 of your own. In addition to that, sometimes your opponent thinks that they're winning because they're killing more ships than you're killing. For example, we are at war right now with someone in our section, and I think for most of the war they thought they were winning. winning. But I don't think they realized that they were just killing really cheap ships, and their ships are extremely expensive. In fact, yesterday we ended up killing a ship that was worth almost $1 billion because it had all officer gear on it. And just the drops from that ship were worth 300 million, which that alone can now pay for us to build and outfit 15 more omens, which they haven't even killed more than 5 of our omens, and we've killed other ships of theirs. So we're making money in this war, and now we're just going to use the money that we're making off them to fund a much bigger fleet, get more of our people involved, and eventually kick them out of our area. I mentioned in my last tips and tricks video that the price of Plex will just keep going up. And while that is true most of the time, you have to keep in mind that the Plex market is going to function a lot like the stock market. And the stock market is based on supply and demand. So most of the time it's going to go up because as we make more money in the game, as people are able to make billions and billions of ISK, Plex is going to be worth more and more. But it will not just be a clear line upwards. It will go up and down as different things in the market change. There are 2 things in particular that are going to make big shifts into the Plex market. The first one is that there are going to be spikes as people get kind of antsy about buying, and there are going to be drops when people are kind of nervous about selling. For example, when I released that tips and tricks video 2 weeks ago, and it taught a bunch of new players that they needed to buy Plex to be able to get Omega, and it told a bunch of advanced players that they should start investing in Plex, a lot of people started buying into Plex, and while the cost of Plex was only going up about 3,000 to 5,000 a day, after I posted that video, it started going up about 20,000 a day. But that wasn't just because of that video. Rather, by that video introducing some into the market, it caused the market to spike some, and then more people that already knew about those things in the video started to freak out and started to buy as well, which made it go up and up and up. When those type of things happen, it will create a bubble, which will then later autocorrect, which is exactly what happened. 3 or 4 days after that video came out, it was about 125,000. It dropped pretty drastically back down to about 80,000. Now, obviously, it is already back up to 200,000, which is how the Plex market will go. It will constantly be going up and up and up. But the second thing that's going to make a big difference on the Plex market is when we hit a new tier level. Because when you hit a new tier level, there's a bunch of new things to buy in the game. So a lot of people that have been saving up on Plex are going to cash in on that Plex to then go buy the things in the game to be able to produce more money in the game or be able to have a competitive advantage in PvP. And so they are going to be selling a bunch of their Plex, which is going to dump a bunch of Plex into the system. It's going to make the rate of Plex plummet. So that's going to happen about a week and a half to 2 weeks from now when a lot of people start hitting Tech 7. And when that price starts to plummet, a lot of people that have been saving up on Plex, maybe they haven't even hit Tech 7, are going to freak out and start selling their Plex, which is going to make it go even further down. So if you're a free-to-play player and you're a little bit behind and you're trying to get to Omega, I'd actually recommend holding off on buying Plex right now, and then in a week and a half to 2 weeks from now, when the price goes down, then buy in. Just save your money right now. But when T7 happens, it's going to drop pretty hard as people are really focusing on that stuff. So make sure to buy when that price is low. It should also affect the prices of chips. So again, if you're a free-to-play player and you haven't bought your expert chip yet, then make sure to save up that money so that you can buy it here in about 2 or 3 weeks when the price goes down. That being said, there are a lot of items that are going to shoot up in price when T7 happens, and so you might want to actually start investing in those items now so that when T7 skyrockets, you're going to be able to sell those items for a lot more than you bought them for. One example of that are remote armor repairs and remote shield boosters. These items, even the best ones, the officer gear, the medium remote, I just bought several of them for 9 million. They're only 10 million. This is the best armor repair in the game. But the reason they're so cheap is because a lot of the best cruisers or battle cruisers that are going to be able to do a lot of this type of repair aren't in the game yet. So there's not a lot of use for these items, which makes them incredibly cheap right now. These prices are going to go up, way up. Similarly, shield field modules and armor link modules are going to skyrocket. Right now, I've been able to get some of these bloodline medium armor links for like 1.5 million. And that is because there is not a single ship in the game yet that can actually use this yet. So no one's buying them. But once T7 hits, there's going to be a ton of ships that are added to the game that can use these modules, and they are really powerful modules. So those are going to shoot up in price. I mean, I would guess that they're going to be 20 to 40 times the price after T7 is fully established. And there's going to be a ton of changes, and I can't cover all of them, but there's one more that I think I should talk about, and that is raw ore and minerals. When T7 comes out, it is going to introduce a new type of industrial ship, and it is going to introduce strip mining into the game. This is going to make lots of materials like sputamine and dark ochre and all of these materials. They might shoot up in price at first as everyone's building ships, but eventually they're going to plummet in price because people are going to be able to farm so many more of them. That being said, Bistot and Arcanor are probably going to shoot up in price because honestly there's not really any use for Megasite right now and Zidrine, but when T7 ships come out, there's going to be a huge use for these materials, which is going to make those prices skyrocket. So like I said, there's going to be a lot of changes to the market when T7 happens, and I can't cover all of them, so you guys are going to have to use your own tuition as far as what to do. Like T7 strip miners are only worth $1 million right now. Those are going to shoot up in price. A lot of T7 ships can have 3 rigs, so the price is going to go up on those. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen with blueprints because T8 is when the new set of blueprints arrives, so I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen with the other blueprints, but I imagine they'll go up as well, as there will be a bigger need for pretty much everything. Obviously T5 gear will probably plummet in price. Another tip that I have for you guys is if you're looking for a good phone, which Eve Echoes is a great game to have a good phone because the graphics in it are amazing, I recommend the Red Magic 5S. I have often been sponsored by Red Magic, so I know some of you might be skeptical of this, but those of you who know my channel know that I would never actually say I promote this product unless I really believe in it. And I really believe in Red Magic. I've had 3 of their phones right now and I have loved all of them. The latest one I just got last week is the Red Magic 5S, which is an incredible phone, which has a lot of similar stats to the 5G, which I showed you guys and talked about in this video, but it also looks way cooler, and they did something with the cooling system that now when I play on that phone, it is a lot cooler than the 5S. Even if I don't have the cooling fan running, it is just a lot cooler to touch. And then you will notice in Eve Echoes that there are a lot of people using a lot of weird jargon and slang that you may have no clue what they're talking about, and you may think you've been missing out on something, and that is because a lot of the people that are playing Eve Echoes are the people that played Eve Online, and there is a huge amount of jargon and slang in Eve Online. So I don't know all of the slang yet, but here's a list of several of the most common Eve Online terms that you will see a lot in Eve Echoes, and that is what they're talking about. Through lots of different gathering actions, you will find ancient remains scattered throughout. If you hit investigate and you start the investigation, you will uncover an ancient item. All of these can be turned into the museum at Arcana, which then you can exchange for temporary skins. Personally, I do not think it's worth it, mainly because those skins are temporary, but it's still something that you should know is part of the game. When you are fighting an anomaly, I recommend zooming really far out so that you can see when people warp in. Also, if you are doing a more difficult anomaly, it is important to know whether or not your fleet commander wants you to have it sorted by distance or by name. Different fleet commanders will use different approaches as they call out the targets they want you to focus on. Eve Echoes does fit my recommendation for a game that is great for families. I do recommend that those families are older families because it is a very intense game that requires a lot of strategy, a lot of brain power, and a young kid is not going to understand it. But I do think that if a father wants to play with his 15-year-old, this is a great game because it allows you to each have your own roles and work together to produce something awesome. If you guys have not seen my video showing evidence of why the best parents are the ones that play video games, you really should check that out. If your corp works really well together like ours has been, and we share almost all of our resources together, then I recommend having someone really high in management and trade not only be in charge of everything you need to sell, but also all of the blueprints, because there are only really 2 tasks for blueprints. You either sell them or you make them. So having your accountant be the one that gathers all those blueprints will first let him be able to realize how many we have extra, instead of, everyone keeping some extra, and just makes it very wasteful to have everyone keeping a few on hand. You have one person deciding how many you need to have on hand, and that way you can sell all of the rest. And then lastly, I recommend following someone that plays this game and watching gameplay videos. Even if they're not that great like me, if they play with other people that are great, you will learn a ton just by watching them play or make mistakes. So if this interests you, there's a lot of really great gameplay channels for this game already, but I am starting to play Eve Echoes gameplay on my gameplay channel. So if you like gameplay, check that out. Well, that's it guys. Hope that helps. I'm really enjoying this game. I hope you guys are too. Our alliance is getting really strong and we only have 4 corps in the alliance, so we would love to find some other really strong corps that want to join us. We have pretty much locked down our area. It's still a lot of fighting, but we're winning, and so hopefully we'll be able to liberate our area. The more people that want to come help us do that, the more fun we'll have. All right guys, see you next time.